currently en route to a heat loss survey at a block of flats that I've arranged with the owner of the block and also the estate agent that manages the premises. There's a total of 8 flats, it's a HMO. The main goal of the owner is to increase the EPC rating of the flats, because new regulation coming in means that flats have to meet a minimum EPC rating, and of course having an air source heat pump is always going to make the properties more energy efficient. And again, there's a £7,500 grant there to help landlords contribute towards that. At the minute, 3 of them are on gas boilers, so they're the point of priority for the owner. We're just having a look at one today to get an initial assessment. But whilst the owner's requested that I just assess the whole external part of the building as well for where pumps can be located, and in this one flat we'll be looking at today, obviously locating and ensuring that a vented and pressurised hot water cylinder with a 3-metre coil can be accommodated within the flats. Each one's only 2 or 3 rooms. Internally, I'll be taking the measurements of the ceiling height, all the external walls, getting the square meterage of each room within the flat, the window area as well, measuring radiator pipe work, the size of the radiators as well, whether they're single or double panel convectors, and also the flow and return pipes coming out of the boiler, which ideally need to be 28mm or above. One thing the owners asked me to assess and look at is whether there's adequate room, obviously at ground level, for the pumps to be fitted, but there's also first floor level flats in there, so it's all about adequate clearances and seeing if they can be wall mounted up the wall. So that's pretty much everything.
And what we listened to on our drive?
But what we have been listening to, and what I'll be continuing to listen to shortly, is our Talk Sport, which is the world's #1 listened to sports radio station. My dear air source heat pumps also advertise on the channel with brand new and improved R32 pricing. Okay, so we've just completed the heat loss survey, well, one of the heat loss surveys at the block of flats that we were on our way to before. So we surveyed one of the flats, which had 2 rooms, a living room / kitchen, a bedroom and a bathroom. So it wasn't a large heat loss to do. There's 3 radiators in there in total. We've measured all the external walls of the property outside as well. The gable end's 12 metres in width and it's a 3-storey building. So with regards to wall mounting potential for air source heat pumps for the other flats there's plenty of room. There's only a couple of small windows on the gable end. At the rear there's a 3.5 metre area where an air source heat pump can be fitted. There was adequate room for an unvented hot water cylinder in the one flat that we looked at. We looked at the main electrical incomers that were in the hallway. Each individual flat has got its own 60 amp fuse cut-off, or cut-out rather. Each flat's on its own individual electric supply as well. They're all listed as their own separate addresses. They've all got their own separate EPCs. So potentially there, provided that each one had a gas boiler, which I believe only 3 do, and the other 3 rather, are either off of solar or storage heaters. The 3 with gas boilers will be eligible for the grant. So all in all, job done. Back to the office.
Right guys, today we are working on a hand shoe system. We're adding an additional 4 batteries, which as you can see here, I've already done the brackets using the fixings supplied with the materials from the manufacturer. As you can see, all the batteries are now stacked on the wall, so utilising the space that we've got. Now I've just got to connect everything up and then turn on the system, check everything's all working. All the cables are now terminated into the units and we're ready to power it back up and test. As you can see, the new batteries are all back on with the system, it's all connected. All the correct lights are showing, and we just need to now go down and check with the client on his phone that the app is showing that these new batteries have been installed. All the AC and DC system has been switched back on, re-energised. Job's a good one.
Stage of your job, he wants pictures of the job. Your bracket going in, any tiling what wants grind out needs to be ground out, because I've been to a few jobs where they've been kicking, which doesn't look professional at the end of the day. It should be nice and flat onto a roof. Slates, that's how I want some looking. Flat pan tile like that. I've seen them where they put them underneath, which is wrong. top one, rosewood is exactly the same, and then your model roof up the far end as well, exactly the same as that. I've seen people silicon it up, silicon that up, silicon it up. It goes in a reservoir, so the water will get in, fill back up and go inside. It doesn't want any holes putting in any of the felt whatsoever. I've noticed now that they started putting two towards the end, brackets.
Bring it within perimeters, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what it is. I don't know what the settings are.
You can go a lot lower as long as you put extra brackets in.
Right.
Once you've located the rafter, which is there, as you can see by the batten nail, you replace one of the tiles with a hook stop, which is basically a rubber mat. We've nailed that in place so it can't slip down. Directly in the centre. Making sure you're screwing the screws in straight so it's not popping out the side of the rafter. So that's firmly secured with 2 solar screws. And then just on the way to a survey for a heat loss, well, an air source heat pump heat loss survey. I've already been to see the customer once. He's happy to move forward with everything, so it's just some final checks, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, some final measurements, and because he wants a new radiator in the kitchen, because there's not one in there at the minute, there's 2 possible locations, so it's just to finalise exactly where he wants it. So there's one end on the gable end of the kitchen, but that means if the radiator goes there, it's got to convect the heat all the way across to the other side of the room. Where there is a central point, which I've recommended, just then the heat's being convected from the centre and then it'll spread evenly out. Okay, so what we're doing at the minute is we're measuring the clearance for the pump to go underneath the kitchen window here. So from the back door to the neighbouring boundary, we've got 2 metres 87, and the pump has to be 1 metre away from the neighbouring boundary. So that takes us to 1 metre 87 here. The My Dear pump requires 600mm clearance on the right hand side for servicing and 300 on the left. So we've got plenty of room. Obviously we've got the hose pipe coming out the wall here. However, the pump won't start until 30mm out the wall. So the back of the pump will begin here. I've already sent pictures of this to the installer that will be doing the job, just for clarification. They said we can relocate the hose pipe so it's not going to be hidden and tucked in behind the heat pump. So this is the existing gas boiler at the customer's property. You've got 28mm flow and return pipe work. You've got bonding on the pipe work as well, earthing. The boiler will come out. We'll dispose of it, or the customer can keep it for scrap, whichever you prefer. And an unvented hot water cylinder will be fitted here with a pressurised hot water cylinder, 3 metre coil. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're measuring the surface area of the windows in the front room. So that's 1.26 metres by 1.53 metres. You multiply those 2 figures together, they'll give you the surface area of this area of the window. We'll do the same with this, the same with the one behind you there. Add them together, and because this is the only window area in the front room, that'll give you the total surface area of the windows in this particular room. So what we need to do now in every room is measure the height, the width of each radiator, and also whether it's a single or double panel radiator. So we've got 600mm by 1100mm or 1.1 metres. And then we need to measure the pipe work that's coming into the radiator here. And to measure it, it's just from one side to the other. So I'm just on the way back after completing a heat loss survey for a client. So protocol now is return to the office, run all the measurements and data taken today through the heat loss calculator. I'll then put the full project report together, email that through to the customer, and touch base to get the final costing. And now I'll pass you over to Phil, who's just completing the electrical side of the installation on a project where we're reinstalling an old solar system for a customer that's just been renovating the property. So over to you, Phil.
Okay, so today we're reinstalling a pre-existing solar setup for a customer. We've got a new distribution board because they've had the house rewired, a Fox 3 kilowatt double string inverter, new DC isolators, new AC isolator, all new equipment. And in a couple of hours it should be operational. So we're now all finished with the solar, just to show what everything is. You've got the power coming in from the house to this board, the solar coming in through the PV Ultra cable, all in trunking. Within the board we've got surge protection for the AC side and empty ways for the customer's various circuits they're going to add later. An energy meter to record how much energy has been sent back to the grid, an AC isolator for the inverter, and then we've got the inverter with its AC supply, its Wi-Fi, and the two solar strings coming into it, both with their own isolator. This is the 3 kilowatt inverter. It's a very cloudy day, so it's currently only exporting 28 watts, but it's a 2000 watt system, so come summer there should be some big savings to be made.
And that's another week in the books for the Blue Ape. See you next week, and don't forget, like, share and subscribe.